At the family banquet, I watched as my husband, Stanford, walked in hand with his mistress, Dinah. A sharp pain shot through my heart. Instinctively, I stepped forward, but two bodyguards at his side blocked my way. "Miss Olive, please behave yourself. Given your current status, it's best to stay in your place." Their words carried both disdain and pity. I curled my lips into a bitter smile, turned around, and walked toward the exit of the banquet hall. Just as I reached the doorway, Stanford had someone call me back. He stood tall in his tailored suit, yet his gaze as he looked at me was one of sheer condescension. "Dinah said she wants to get to know you. Stay and keep her company." As he spoke, he turned to look at Dinah beside him, his eyes instantly softening. "But honestly, I don't understand why you'd be interested in someone like her." Dinah gave him a sweet smile and leaned in to whisper in his ear. "Olive has been with you for so long, she must know you very well." Before she could finish, Stanford pulled her into his arms and pressed a kiss onto her lips. Dinah pushed him away, her cheeks flushed. "Stop it, she's still here. And everyone's watching." Stanford cast a cold glance around the room. The guests immediately lowered their heads, avoiding his gaze. Satisfied, he smirked at Dinah, his tone indulgent. "See? No one dares to look now." Dinah rolled her eyes at him playfully, then turned to me with an innocent expression. "Olive, has Stanford always been this domineering? He's just too much to handle." Watching her feigned innocence, I let out a silent laugh. I had long since seen through these little mind games. Stanford frowned and cut her off, his voice icy. "Don't waste your breath on people like her. She's not even worthy of carrying your shoes." I pressed my lips together, feeling the weight of the gazes around me. To them, no matter how much Stanford looked down on me, I was still his legal wife, the head of the company's legal department. A position so many people would kill for. Every time Stanford humiliated me, their eyes flickered with both jealousy and fake sympathy. Human nature was truly ironic. As the banquet began, Stanford ordered me to take care of Dinah. I looked at the woman's sweet, harmless smile and felt a chill creep through me. She was even more cunning than I had imagined. In just a few months, she had Stanford completely wrapped around her finger. For a moment, I considered warning him to be careful. But then I thought, would a man like Stanford, so full of himself, ever listen? Under the crystal lights in the center of the ballroom, I stood in the corner, watching them dance the opening waltz. Whispers from the crowd reached my ears, clear as day. "Oh my God, he actually let his mistress open the dance. Yeah, first time in 5 years. Olive must be so humiliated." I clenched my champagne glass, my knuckles turning white. No matter how much Stanford had despised me before, he had at least kept up appearances in public. But now, he didn't even bother with that. Sure enough, as soon as the music ended, Stanford eagerly led Dinah onto the stage. He wrapped an arm around her waist and looked down at the guests, his gaze burning with arrogance. "I have an announcement to make tonight." I closed my eyes, already knowing what was coming. From today onward, Dinah will take over as the company's legal director. Then he turned to me, his eyes filled with contempt. "Olive, you can be her assistant. Maybe you'll finally learn how to conduct yourself properly." A few sparse claps broke the silence, mixed with hushed murmurs. I stood motionless, my face unreadable, even as the champagne glass in my hand shattered. The murmurs around me grew louder, everyone was speculating when I would finally leave. I stood in the shadows, watching as they gossiped about me like I was nothing more than entertainment. The humiliation cut deeper than any knife. 5 years of marriage, yet I had never once melted the ice in Stanford's heart. As my gaze fell on the two of them up on stage, a weariness I had never felt before washed over me. Watching their shameless display of affection, I suddenly realized how ridiculous I must look. I had had enough. For the first time, the thought of leaving truly took root in my heart. Before the banquet even ended, Stanford left quietly with Dinah, as expected. And as always, I was left behind to deal with the aftermath, facing the stares, the whispers, the judgment. I was used to it by now. Every social event played out the same way. He left with his latest fling, while I forced a smile and pretended nothing had happened. Taking a deep breath, I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. As the wife of the CEO, I had to keep up appearances. I forced a professional smile as I bid farewell to the guests one by one. Just as I was about to leave, a gentle voice called out behind me. Miss Olive, may I have a moment of your time? I looked up and immediately recognized the woman before me, Victoria, a renowned jewelry designer. We found a quiet cafe to sit down. She got straight to the point. Miss Olive, would you consider returning to jewelry design? We'd love to have you at our studio. Her unexpected invitation caught me off guard. After a brief hesitation, I replied. I haven't touched design in years. Victoria held my gaze. Your last piece left a deep impression on me. I wanted to invite you back then, but you chose to leave the field. After a pause, she added. Forgive me for being blunt, but after what I witnessed at the banquet tonight, I think you might need a fresh start. Your talent shouldn't go to waste. I forced a bitter smile, saying nothing. But inside, I was struggling. Victoria didn't rush me, simply waiting patiently for my answer. After a long moment, I lifted my head, my voice firm. I accept. I just need some time to sort things out first. Victoria stood up and extended her hand. I look forward to working with you. I shook her hand and smiled back. When I returned home and opened the door, the sight before me made my stomach turn. Stanford stood in the living room, wearing nothing but a bathrobe. The red marks on his neck and the look of satisfaction on his face pierced my heart like a knife. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms, but the pain only made me feel more awake. You're finally back, he drawled lazily. Go change the sheets in that room. And keep it down, Dinah's taking a bath. His casual tone made my stomach churn. 5 years of marriage, and he had never once treated me like a wife. To him, I wasn't even worth as much as a servant. Seeing me remain still, he frowned impatiently. What are you standing there for? Get moving. I turned on my heel and headed for my own bedroom. Olive. Stop right there. He barked from behind me. I turned back, my disgust nearly overflowing. Let the maids handle it. I'm tired. You know I don't like outsiders touching my things, he said coldly. I couldn't help but laugh, a bitter, ugly laugh. Because hidden within it was far too much pain and despair. Haven't you always treated me like an outsider? As I pushed open the door, I was immediately greeted by flirtatious laughter echoing from the living room. Baby, how about a vacation? Just the two of us. Dinah playfully pushed him away. Olive's back. Stanford glanced at me, his eyes filled with impatience. The sheets and blankets. But the moment he saw the suitcase in my hand, his expression darkened, a dangerous glint flashing in his eyes. What's the meaning of this? I let out a cold laugh. The frustration and anger I had been holding in finally erupted. Don't you hate me the most? Now that I'm leaving, you and Miss Dinah can finally be together without hiding. Why insist on keeping me here as an eyesore? He suddenly stood up and grabbed my wrist with so much force that I sucked in a sharp breath from the pain. Who do you think you are? Just a pathetic wretch your parents sold off, and now you dare put on airs in front of me? At that moment, I finally understood, he never saw me as a person, just a toy he owned. He could humiliate me however he wanted, but he would never allow me to leave his grasp. Like a child with an old toy, he might not like it anymore, but he still wouldn't let anyone else take it. That realization filled me with an overwhelming sense of hatred. 5 years ago, when I was still studying abroad, his family suddenly showed up at my door. They told me that as long as I married Stanford, my younger sister's medical bills would be covered. At that time, my sister was critically ill and needed urgent surgery. My parents, desperate to save her, had no choice but to agree to the marriage. For a family worth billions, 1.5 million was nothing more than pocket change. As for Stanford, the only reason he married me was because his grandfather, Vito, had forced him into it by threatening to take away his shares. Back when Vito was alive, he still kept his behavior somewhat in check. Now that Vito was gone, he had no reason to hold back. He tormented me without restraint, using me as his personal punching bag. I used to naively believe that if I were gentle enough, understanding enough, one day, I could melt his heart. I was wrong, so wrong. This isn't over. His voice was ice cold. You better behave yourself. I looked at him, feeling an unfamiliar clarity for the first time. The fear and submission I once had vanished completely, replaced by a chilling calm. Why should I keep enduring this? If he wanted to play, then fine, we'd play. But this time I wouldn't be the fool who let him trample all over me. As he spoke, Stanford's hand wandered down Dinah's waist. The two of them were openly affectionate, as if I didn't exist. His breathing grew heavier, his long fingers teasingly hooking onto the buttons of Dinah's blouse. Dinah blushed, playfully pushing him away. "Stop it, someone's watching." Stanford glanced at me, scoffed, and muttered, "Mood killer." Then he pulled Dinah into the bedroom, disappearing behind the door. Right before stepping inside, Dinah turned back to flash me a taunting smile. The door slammed shut. I picked up my suitcase, feeling suffocated. I couldn't stand being here for another second. But just as I reached the entrance, 2 bodyguards blocked my way. "Sir said you can't leave without his permission." I let out a bitter laugh, but I had no choice but to let them escort me back to that suffocating room. The next morning, Stanford spoke with a cold expression. "Dinah is officially starting today. You'll be responsible for showing her the ropes." I pressed my lips together, about to protest, but he cut me off sharply. "You know what happens when you don't obey." Lowering my eyes, I murmured a quiet yes, missing the flash of triumph in Dinah's gaze. When I arrived at the office, I found my personal belongings packed into boxes and placed on an outer desk. Stanford's gaze fell on a photograph sitting on top of the pile. His brows furrowed. "Where did you get this?" The photo showed him as a teenager, wearing a school uniform, full of youthful energy. I answered indifferently, "Vito gave it to me." Dinah picked up the photo, her eyes lighting up. "Can I have one?" I replied softly, "Take it." At my words, Stanford's expression flickered. I used to treasure everything about him like a devoted believer, every photo, every item he touched, even the notes he scribbled on a whim. I collected them all carefully, afraid of losing even a single piece. He always mocked me for it, saying I was a crazy stalker. Now, looking back, I couldn't help but laugh at my own foolishness. I had treated someone who never loved me like he was my entire world. The things I once held dear now seemed like nothing more than pitiful evidence of my self-deception. These days, I followed Dinah around, watching as she shamelessly took over what used to be mine. The sympathetic looks from my coworkers felt like needles pricking at my skin, as if I were some pitiful, discarded woman. "Baby, I made dinner reservations. Stanford had been hanging around here every day lately." Dinah pouted as she flipped through documents. "But I haven't finished reading these yet." Stanford waved dismissively. "Let Olive handle it. Giving you this director position was so we could spend more time together, she can do the work." A trace of dissatisfaction flashed through Dinah's eyes. "But I want to help you." That one sentence had Stanford grinning from ear to ear. Watching the way he doted on her, I felt a pang in my chest. A single sweet word from her could make him happy, yet after all these years, I couldn't even get a smile. "Let me learn, so I can help you in the future," Dinah whined. Stanford fondly pinched her cheek. "No need to worry. Olive's here." "But Olive won't always be around." Stanford sneered, his eyes cold. "She won't leave. A gold digger like her would love nothing more than to cling to me forever." "And what about me?" Dinah blinked up at him, feigning innocence. Stanford chuckled and pinched her delicate chin. "You, my little princess, just need to be spoiled by me." Dinah was about to continue acting coy, but he pulled her into his arms and silenced her with a kiss. I lowered my head, swallowing the bitter taste in my mouth. In his eyes, I had only ever married him for his money. I still remember the first year of our marriage when I tearfully confessed my love to him. But he had only looked down at me with mocking disdain, his lips curling into a sneer. "A woman like you, obsessed with wealth, shouldn't dress up your greed as love." Lost in my thoughts, I didn't notice the flash of cruelty in Dinah's gaze. After working late that night, I dragged my exhausted body out of the office building. As I stood by the roadside waiting for a cab, a van suddenly screeched to a stop in front of me. Before I could even scream, a few strong men yanked me inside. I struggled desperately, my voice trembling with tears as I demanded to know who they were. A man wearing a mask spoke coldly. "You're occupying a position that doesn't belong to you." The van eventually stopped in a desolate forest on the outskirts of the city. They dragged me out roughly and forced me to call Stanford. On the 20th attempt, he finally answered. "What is it?" His voice was full of impatience. The man leading the group snarled, "Stanford, we have your wife. If you want her to live, prepare 20 million. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end before a cold chuckle came through. "Olive, what kind of game are you playing now? I take away your position, and you stage a kidnapping? If it's real, go ahead and kill her. If it's fake, don't bother coming back." The line went dead. The leader froze for a moment before kicking me viciously. "Acting like you're Stanford's wife, pathetic. You're not even worth 20 million. Before he could finish, the others swarmed me, beating and kicking me relentlessly. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the utter despair inside me. Late that night, when they were dead drunk, I managed to free my tied-up feet and escape. I had no idea how long I ran, stumbling through the darkness, until I finally collapsed. Just before I lost consciousness, I saw someone running toward me. When I opened my eyes again, the strong smell of disinfectant filled my nose. The nurse saw that I was awake and told me to contact my family. With shaking hands, I dialed the number I knew by heart. The moment he picked up, I spoke first. "Let's get a divorce." He arrived faster than I expected. I looked at the impeccably dressed man before me, but my heart felt nothing. Stanford's face was cold. "Olive, you've been pulling a lot of tricks lately. Seems like you're really dissatisfied with me," I replied icily. "Then let's just end it." Stanford's fist slammed into the cabinet beside the hospital bed. "You dare mention leaving me? Don't forget, you were something I bought. You're not even worth more than a dog. In the nightstand drawer, there's a card with 2 million on it. That should be enough to pay you back." I turned my face away, my eyes full of disgust. Dinah, in her sweet, delicate voice, chimed in, "Don't be mad, feelings can't be forced. Olive has her own thoughts. Besides, you still have me." She even leaned toward Stanford as she spoke. Stanford shoved her away and shot me a piercing glare. "Olive, do you really want this?" I lifted my eyes to meet his, my gaze ice cold. "Yes, Stanford. Let's end this marriage." A chilling smile curled on his lips. "Fine." He immediately called his lawyer and ordered him to bring the divorce papers over. "Make sure it states she leaves with nothing." He enunciated every word clearly, his sharp gaze fixed on me, as if waiting for a reaction. But I remained expressionless, completely unmoved. When the papers arrived, I still showed no emotion. Stanford, on the other hand, I caught a flicker of panic in his eyes. I took the document, flipped to the last page, and signed my name without hesitation. When I handed it back, his face was so dark it looked like a storm was brewing. "Olive, remember this," he growled after signing, grabbing my collar. "When you regret this and come crawling back, I'll make sure you beg." I glanced at the finalized divorce papers and curled my lips into a cold smile. Seeing this, Stanford kicked over a chair and stormed out. Dinah followed closely behind, tossing me a flirtatious look before leaving. I watched it all indifferently. I had long seen through her act. Dinah was far from the harmless woman she pretended to be. She had been scheming something around Stanford for a while, and after last night, I was even more certain. The old me would have warned Stanford to be cautious. But now? I just wanted to watch from the sidelines. Ever since Vito passed away, his family's business had become a prime target for countless vultures. Back then, I had promised the old man I would help Stanford protect it, not just out of gratitude, but also to fulfill my own ambitions. For 5 years, I gave everything to manage the company, solidifying his status in the jewelry industry. And in return, all I got was endless humiliation and coldness. The most ridiculous part? When he found out I was leaving the design world, he sneered. "You gave up your future just to get my money. What a waste. You sacrificed all these years for nothing." The moment Stanford left, Victoria walked in with a contract. I skimmed through it. The terms were incredibly generous. I shot her a questioning look. She smiled. "You deserve this. I believe you'll bring us something amazing." I picked up the pen, ready to sign, when an image of Stanford's furious face flashed in my mind. The thought of it gave me immense satisfaction. But to be safe, I decided to be upfront with Victoria. "There's something I should tell you first. I just divorced Stanford. Given how petty he is, he's bound to cause trouble for me." Victoria chuckled and patted my shoulder. "Don't worry about that. We have strong backing. His family's influence? It's nothing to us. Hearing this, I felt completely at ease. So the rumors were true, this studio had real power behind it. It seemed like I had made the right choice. I wouldn't have to live under Stanford's shadow anymore. That night, I dreamed of Stanford when he was 17. It was a stormy night. I had a huge fight with my mother because I wanted to study jewelry design. She thought it wasn't a suitable career for me and wanted me to get a stable job after graduation. My younger sister was sick and needed money, and she was always the family's priority. That night, my mother said that if I insisted on pursuing jewelry design, I shouldn't bother coming home. With nowhere else to go, I wandered back to school in the rain. That was when a boy in a black suit appeared in front of me. 2 bodyguards stood behind him, holding umbrellas. He handed me one and spoke gently. Getting caught in the rain is romantic, but getting sick isn't. I was about to ask for his name when someone called out. Stanford. He left in a hurry. That rainy night stayed in my memory ever since. So when Vito asked if I was willing to marry Stanford, I agreed without hesitation. But marriage turned out to be a nightmare I couldn't escape. During my hospital stay, Victoria personally brought me gourmet meals every day. On the day of my discharge, I couldn't help but ask, "Does your studio always have such fancy meals?" "Every day is a new surprise." She chuckled. "These were specially prepared for you by Mr. William." I was even more confused. She gave me a mysterious smile. "You'll understand soon." After finishing the paperwork, we headed to the parking lot. In the distance, a limited edition Bentley was parked. I was just about to ask Victoria about it when a tall man stepped out of the car. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit, exuding an air of effortless elegance. For some reason, my heart skipped a beat. The aura he carried made it impossible to look away. "This is William, an investor in the studio," Victoria introduced the man beside her. He was dressed in a tailored suit that accentuated his perfect physique, exuding an air of nobility in every gesture. "I feel like I've seen you somewhere before," I asked softly. "I attended your design exhibition." A flicker of intrigue flashed in William's deep-set eyes, his voice low and magnetic. His slender fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel. "It's getting late. Let me drive you home to get your things." Seeing that I wanted to refuse, he pressed his thin lips together, his gaze sharp. "If you go back alone, Stanford won't let you leave so easily." In the end, I got into his luxury Maybach, worth millions. Sure enough, as soon as I stepped inside, I was greeted by Stanford's dark expression. "Acting all high and mighty? Now you finally realize you need me?" His eyes were full of disdain. "Kneel and beg me, and maybe I'll." "I'm just here to get my things." I bit my lip, cutting him off, forcing down the humiliation in my heart. Stanford smirked as he sized me up, as if waiting for me to lower myself and plead. I forced myself to stay composed and walked straight toward the bedroom. But he clearly had no intention of letting me go so easily. Several bodyguards immediately blocked my way. "What? Still keeping up the act? There's no one else here, so why?" "Olive, are you done packing?" A commanding male voice suddenly interrupted. Stanford's face instantly darkened. "William? What are you doing here?" The door was open. "I came to check on my person." William strode in with his long legs, radiating an undeniable sense of dominance. "Your person?" Stanford's gaze turned meaningful as he looked at me. "Since when?" "Since the day you signed the divorce papers." William's lips curved into a dangerous smirk, his eyes cold as a blade. "I see," Stanford sneered. "No wonder you were in such a hurry to divorce me, you found yourself a better man." He turned to me, his voice dripping with mockery. "Olive, you really think he cares about you? He just wants to take what's mine." My eyes burned, but I kept my voice icy. "You think too highly of yourself." William let out a soft chuckle, a glint of danger in his gaze. Under his commanding presence, I quickly finished packing. Before leaving, I placed a bank card on the dining table. 2 million. Not a penny less. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. At the door, we ran into Dinah. William's sharp gaze lingered on her for a moment, something knowing flashing in his eyes. In the car, I couldn't help but ask if he knew Dinah. His slender fingers tapped rhythmically on the steering wheel, his tone carrying a hint of coldness. Her family is one of Stanford's company's competitors. I met her at a charity gala before. Seems like Stanford doesn't know her true identity. A meaningful look crossed William's face. He glanced at me. Do you want to tell Stanford? Not interested. I chuckled. He and I are from two different worlds now. Earlier, I hesitated, my cheeks growing warm. You said I was yours, but actually. William suddenly reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face, his deep voice tinged with amusement. Spending too much time with Victoria has made you quite straightforward. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly explained, sorry, I didn't mean it that way. A faint smile flickered in his deep eyes, but he said nothing. For the rest of the drive, the air was thick with an unspoken tension. After moving out, I settled into the apartment provided by the studio, throwing myself completely into my design work. It wasn't until the studio hosted an exhibition that I ran into Stanford again. He arrived at the event with Dinah on his arm. Upon spotting me alone, he immediately approached with a sneer. What, got abandoned again? He looked down at me with condescension. A woman like you, whose own parents didn't even want her, is destined to be alone forever. I'm the only one who would ever tolerate you. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh in ridicule. Once, I had given up my dignity for this self-important man. Don't bother yourself with me. I lifted my chin, my gaze cold. I'm doing just fine. He didn't believe me. His eyes swept over me critically. You look exhausted. Let me guess, burning the midnight oil, trying to meet a deadline? This kind of high-end event isn't for someone like you. Don't think you're still the sought-after designer you once were. Just then, Victoria's bright voice echoed from the stage. Thank you all for coming. Today, I'm honored to introduce our studio's new chief designer, Olive. Her addition will bring fresh, innovative ideas to our team. The room fell into an uproar. Everyone present was from the industry. They knew all about the history between Stanford and me. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Stanford's eyes widened. You're their chief designer? I smiled slightly, my gaze steady and full of pride. He seemed to recall my reputation in the industry and was momentarily speechless. Dinah's eyes flickered with jealousy, though she forced a congratulatory smile. Congrats, Olive. You're really getting ahead. Hearing the bitterness in her voice, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Only then did I realize why William had insisted on holding this exhibition. He wasn't just helping me return to the design world, he was making a statement to everyone. Olive was never defeated. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly respected again. I thought of those who once flattered me, only to turn their backs the moment my marriage with Stanford crumbled. The world had laughed at me, calling me a discarded wife. When my marriage with Stanford ended, those who had once tried to curry favor with me watched the spectacle unfold. But they never expected my comeback to be this triumphant. My first show back had already won me the Designer of the Year award. During that time, I often felt a gentle yet restrained gaze following me. At the end of a banquet, Stanford blocked me in the hotel lobby. His gaze burned into me, his expression more serious than ever before. Olive, we need to talk. I looked at him coldly. The lawyers will handle everything. There's nothing left to say between us. Without giving him a chance to speak, I turned and walked away. From then on, I poured all my energy into preparing for the International Jewelry Design Competition. Days were spent selecting gemstones, sketching ideas, and working late into the night. William often dropped by the studio when I was working overtime, always bringing carefully prepared treats, sometimes handmade cookies, other times fresh fruit, never repeating the same thing. Watching him stand by the floor-to-ceiling window, brewing my favorite caramel macchiato, I couldn't help but feel a flutter in my chest. Victoria would tease me every time. A handsome, wealthy, and caring man, what are you waiting for? One night, at a dinner party, she was slightly tipsy and clung to my hand, whispering conspiratorially. You know, William invested in our studio entirely because of you. Too bad you chose to leave back then. Her words sent a tremor through my heart, making my cheeks flush. From then on, every time I met William's deep, gentle gaze, my heartbeat would quicken, but I was too shy to admit it. Every evening, he waited outside the studio, silently watching over me. A month later, on an ordinary evening, William called to inform me that something major had happened at Stanford's company. Dinah had bribed insiders and stolen the company's core technology. She even snuck into Stanford's office at night and stole the latest research plans. In the video, Stanford's face looked terrifyingly grim. He demanded to know Dinah's intentions. Dinah sneered and replied, "You're so naive and arrogant. I've been scheming to get Olive out of the picture. As long as she's here, I can't make a move. Thanks to you fueling the fire, I couldn't have done it without you." Stanford recalled the time I was kidnapped, his voice rising in anger. "Did you plan that kidnapping?" Dinah calmly admitted it, then added, "Olive saw through everything a long time ago, she just couldn't be bothered to remind you. This is all your fault. She's long given up on you, and your company is doomed. This is the consequence for you and your family." I was curious why Dinah hated his family so much. William explained to me that Dinah's mother had once been a servant in his family. She had been punished by Stanford's mother for a small mistake, having her leg broken. In the end, unable to bear the torment, she chose to end her life. After hearing this story, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. On the other end of the phone, William paused before gently saying, "Don't let this get to you. Focus on preparing for the competition. I'll always be by your side." His deep voice warmed my heart, and I couldn't help but smile. 2 days later, the media exploded with news of Stanford's company going bankrupt. I only glanced at the headline before putting my phone away, but as I walked toward the studio, I ran into Stanford, looking haggard. His eyes were bruised, and his suit was no longer sharp, his whole demeanor as if he had aged 10 years overnight. "Do you need something?" I asked flatly. He was silent for a long time before speaking. "Come have dinner with me, anywhere you want to go." I laughed derisively. "Do you even know where I like to go?" Stanford was speechless. Looking at his disheveled state, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. The man who once stood so high had now fallen this far. He avoided my gaze, his tone awkward. "I admit I was wrong in the past, and I won't do that again. I'll cherish you from now on. There won't be a third person involved." I raised an eyebrow and asked, "Have you suffered some kind of blow? Is your mental state off?" His face darkened, and he looked like he was about to snap but then restrained himself. "I genuinely want to make it up to you. You've sacrificed so much for the company over the years, can you forgive me this time?" I sneered. "Forgive you?" He said lightly, "I can clear your parents' debts, so you don't have to worry about those things anymore." A cold glint flashed in my eyes. "Don't even think about it. I've already had my lawyer prepare the divorce papers." He furrowed his brow. "You didn't hesitate when Grandpa first proposed this marriage, so why are you acting so ungrateful now?" I lifted my chin, my gaze sharp. "The neglect and hurt I endured these 5 years are your lessons for me. Now, I'm making you pay back every bit of it." With that, I strode past him in my high heels and walked toward William, who had been waiting at a distance. I linked my arm with his, ready to leave. Stanford stood frozen for a moment before smiling indulgently and matching my movements. From then on, Stanford acted like a different person, showering me with constant attention. Every morning, he sent fresh roses, and had luxury items delivered to the studio non-stop. From limited edition bags to custom jewelry, I gave everything away to charity. "The company is a mess now. Without you, I can't go on," he said. "This house is so empty, the last servant is leaving, and I think I finally understand how you felt back then. Give me a chance, let me be a competent husband." Last night, I dreamt of the past and realized how miserable I was. I hope you can forgive my past. Seeing this dramatic confession, I couldn't help but smirk. William strode over, his gaze sharp. "What's he saying now?" His voice was low. I handed him my phone. He took it and his brow furrowed. Then he snorted coldly, a hint of disdain flashing in his eyes. "Don't let his fake apologies fool you. He just wants someone to take the blame for him. Tell me you're not falling for his words?" I smiled lightly and, in front of him, deleted all the messages with one click. Seeing this, the gloom in William's eyes lifted, replaced by a smile. What I didn't expect was that Stanford would show up next with my parents. Facing the three of them, I couldn't help but mockingly curl my lips, a wave of disgust rising in my chest. My mom glanced at the designer uniform I was wearing, her eyes filled with disdain. You ungrateful daughter, you have a good marriage but throw it away to mess around with design. A man as outstanding as Stanford is too good for you, and yet you dare ask for a divorce? I coldly responded, he's been cheating for 5 years. My mom sneered, what do you know? Stanford is so excellent, it's normal for him to have women around him. If you had the ability, you should have found a way to keep his heart, not just focus on work all the time. I turned to my dad, but he avoided my gaze like a coward, acting indifferent. Knowing they were like this didn't make it any less painful when I saw it with my own eyes. Stanford still tried to control the situation, a fake smile plastered on his face. Olive, I don't care who you're with now. If you're willing to come back, we can start over. Shut up. I interrupted harshly, my eyes full of disgust. Stanford, you're disgusting. What does it matter that you brought them here? I don't care about them anymore. Stanford froze, looking incredulous. But they're your biological parents. I sneered, a mocking glint in my eyes. They're not. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, my mom screamed hysterically, if you take one more step, you'll never have a place in this family again. I looked back, a sneer on my lips. That's exactly what I want. William, who had been quietly watching, walked over with quick strides, his eyes filled with tenderness. I forced a smile, but my eyes stung with tears. He gently wiped away the tear from the corner of my eye, his voice soft. You don't need to fake a smile in front of me. I froze, lowering my head to wipe my eye with the back of my hand. To distract me, William brought up his own past, his voice gentle. Speaking of which, Stanford and I were classmates in high school. One time, I was waiting at the school gate and saw a girl drenched in rain. I lent her my umbrella. His words made my heart skip a beat, as if something had hit me. Was it a blue umbrella? William thought for a moment, his gaze soft. It should have been. As soon as he finished speaking, he understood something, and his eyes lit up with surprise. Could that girl have been you? I nodded slowly, my heart pounding. He gazed at me with affection. That's fate. At that moment, the last lingering attachment in my heart vanished. So, it wasn't Stanford, but that boy from back then. I couldn't help but smile, my eyes slightly warm. 3 months later, I represented my studio at a world-class jewelry design competition. After fierce competition, I finally took home the top prize. As I stood on the stage, receiving the award, I looked down at the man whose eyes were shining with pride for me and gathered my courage. William, will you be my husband? He froze for a moment, then a smile full of affection spread across his face. I will. The entire room erupted into loud applause and cheers. A month later, we held a warm and simple wedding. Just as we were exchanging vows, Stanford suddenly burst into the venue. Dressed in a suit but looking exhausted, his eyes were red, and his voice hoarse. Olive, I've regretted it all these years. Please, give me another chance. I was wrong. Please, don't marry someone else. Before I could respond, William had already coldly stepped in front of me, signaling to the security to escort him out with a look. How can we let someone like this ruin such a beautiful day? He turned and wrapped me in his arms, his eyes full of tenderness. Seeing him jealous, I couldn't help but rise on my tiptoes and gently kiss his lips. He chuckled softly. I've finally brought my little princess home. On our wedding night, he pulled me into his arms, repeatedly asking where the nickname came from, his gaze soft and tender. In that moment, I realized someone had quietly been protecting me all these years. The end.